Okay, welcome to our end of year webinar. Thanks for joining. My name is Noel Achi. I'm the Sales and Application Manager here at AAG. Before we get going, we want to introduce everybody here on the panel. Jim, if you want to start off for me.
Sure. I'm Jim Heenan. I'm the North American Sales Manager for Routers at AAG.
Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Racinos. I am the Product Director here at AAG, and I cover both software and hardware products across Waterjets and routers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Benji Massera. I'm the North American Sales Manager for Waterjets here at AAG.
And lastly, my name is Akeem. I'm your application specialist based out of Burlington.
Okay, great. So before we get going, I just want to kind of review the different webinars we covered in 2022. On the router side, we started off by doing a packaging webinar on the Trident, which we found people had a lot of interest in terms of how you can cut foam for doing packaged products. Then we transitioned into Metal Fab on our Metal Worker platform, moving on to our panel builder solution. From there, we looked at industrial plastics with our Infinite, and we ended cutting illuminated signs in ACM and plastics on our Infinite again. On the WARDJet side, we started out by looking at programming iGEMs. How do you program a high-end software when running a Waterjet? We transitioned into robotics Waterjet applications, moved from there to Waterjet running our Move software, so a new platform, then optimizing cutting distance, 5-axis cutting programming with our Apex 60, and then we ended with Waterjet maintenance. So we've covered quite a diverse package of different applications on both sides of our machine tools that we sell. And what we wanted to do today was just kind of recap what we've done, open it up to questions from anyone who has questions, whether it be on the Waterjet side or the router side. We put together the best panel we have. We have a pretty diverse group of guys here who have a lot of experience in the industry, and we basically take it from there. Benji, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so you might be joining us from our WARDJet webinar series or our AXYZ webinar series, but we're happy to have everybody here today in kind of one large group. Over the year, clearly we've covered, as Noel mentioned, very specific topics on the Waterjet and on the router, and we try to incorporate those two together. So clearly here at AAG, we do Waterjet router and we are CNC shop. So we really want to highlight how versatile these two technologies are and how complementary they are. So one thing we'd like to show today is a couple different holiday pieces that we put together kind of before we start our Q&A portion of the webinar. So first up, Jeff Day, our application specialist here at WARDJet, has put together the aluminum Christmas tree. So the Christmas tree itself was actually cut on our X1530 Waterjet with our Apex 60 cutting head. And then all of the ornaments were done on our small format A1212 here at WARDJet. So we'll show you a little bit of that cutting, and then we'll get to some questions after a little bit more.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings
Thanks for that, Jeff. And as Noel mentioned earlier, all of these cut files will be available and sent out after the webinar. So feel free to recreate it out of aluminum, or you can clearly reprogram these for any other materials that you may want for your holiday decorations. So Noel's going to show us what we've done on the router side. And then at any point during any of these videos, if you have any new questions, I know some people have submitted when they registered, feel free to add questions below and we'll get to as many questions as we can in the time allotted.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the router sample now. So again, the one we just saw was cutting 1/4 inch and 1/8 aluminum. We'll be cutting some 4 mil aluminum composite, making a similar type of sample, but slightly different in terms of what we got. So I'm gonna run that video now. Okay, I'd like to thank Akeem and Jeff for those really cool samples that they produced. Again, as Benji said and I've said previously, those files will be available at the end of those sessions for anyone who wants to download it. If you don't receive it, again, please reach out to us. So we're going to jump right in now and we will get to questions. Okay. First question someone's put in here. Jim, question here from Nathan on the router side. He's looking for any tips and tricks for cutting acrylic to get a nice clean finish in terms of what would be required.
Okay. Well, acrylic's one of the things we do best on a router. It starts with the rigidity of the machine, but from there, it's really a process in the software, the programming, and picking the right tooling, which our applications team is available to help you with. But it's usually a two-tool process, but we also have some hardware options such as our cold air gun. I'll share my screen here and show you what I'm talking about. That works. So the cold air gun, basically what it does is exactly what you would think. It blows cold air directly on the cutting process, and what that does is that prevents re-welding of the plastic, which can potentially break a tool. It also keeps the tool cool and helps evacuate the chips, which contributes to the good edge quality. So reach out to us. We can get you the correct tooling, the correct feeds and speeds, and all the information you need there.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's jump to a WARDJet question. Jeff, what program are we typically using for programming the WaterJet?
We've got two primary options. We've got WARDCam, which is included with our equipment. And then we've also got iGEMS, which is a optional package. Just go ahead and share my screen here. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Good. All right. So quick little Reader's Digest version of WARDCam, which I've got open here. I can bring in either DXF or DWG files. Also got a shape library. I'll just grab a part out of here for right now. The DXF file works in a similar fashion. So once you've got your geometry, you can hit your next button, choose your material and thickness. There's a material database in the background that assigns feed rates based on the material and the thickness. Hit your next button, top left hand corner, hit your auto button, put your tool path on there. You can change cut quality. So if you want to cut a hole at a different speed, slower, smoother, you can choose different qualities over here. Top right hand corner, hit your next button again, top left hand corner, click on CNC, makes the CNC file that we load at the machine and cut. So you get unlimited copies of this if you purchase one of our WaterJets, so you can have this loaded on every computer in your company if you wanted to. And it's a very nice, simple package. Also offer the optional iGEMS package. So this is a third-party package. iGEMS has been doing WaterJet software for like 30 years, so they've got a lot of great features built into this. There's a basic 2D CAD module here. So if you do need to do any drawing, you can do it here. You can also, of course, bring in DXF and DWG files also. Kind of works in a similar type fashion once you've got your geometry, either be it from a DXF file or just from the shape library. You can click on this quick button and choose material and thickness. It'll create your tool path, and then you can click on your CNC button, make your CNC files. Also has things like nesting. So if you've got a bunch of parts to cut out of the same material, you can give it the sheet size and the quantity of parts, and it'll take the parts and spin them around. It'll put parts within parts and all that good stuff. So those are the two options that we've got for programming software.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay. Actually, another question here on the WaterJet side. How do you determine the right feeds and speeds for WaterJet processing? Jeff, you want to take that one, please?
Sure. Let's see. Show my screen again. So there's a really helpful website that I like to point people to. You can, of course, go and search for this in Google or whatever your preferred search method is. If you just type in WaterJet's calculator hypotherm, or you can type in this address, go directly here. So on this page, you can do things like choose your material. There's an extensive material list here, and put in your thickness, your nozzle orifice combination, which is going to be determined by your pump size. Most people are going to go with a 50 horsepower pump. Then you'll do a 1440 nozzle combination, and it'll show you a range of feed rates here from slowest, smoothest speed to fastest, roughest speed. So depending on the application, you can see the range of cutting speeds. And then also nice over here, you've got information as far as operating costs, cost per inch, piercing times, and information like that. So this is a really helpful page if you don't already have some WaterJet software. So all this information is basically in the background of either our WARDCam or iGEMS package. So if you have those packages, you can get that information from there. But if you don't have a WaterJet CAD-CAM package, this is helpful to refer back to.
Okay, great. Thanks, you, Mr. Day.
Noel, I'll jump in there real quick. Just to add on to what Jeff was saying, we do have those software packages that'll help us determine sort of common materials. Quite often we are given new materials. Maybe it's proprietary, alloy or things like that. If you do have a material that you're not sure how to process, you can always contact us here at WARDJet on the WaterJet side, and same thing on the AXYZ side with the routers. And our applications team is happy to take test strips, test cuts of the materials, try to get to the optimized finish that you're looking for, so you can help to calculate what kind of ROI you're going to get on a system, or if you've got a particularly tricky application, how best to process that for you. So our entire team's here to help you out. So if you do have any questions that you don't find the answers for from the tools that we give you, please feel free to reach out and we're happy to help you.
Great. Thank you. Here's a question for you, Kevin. How do I know when the spindle speed is too high or too low?
Usually, what you'll hear is either the spindle or tool will start to really sound like it's screeching, or it's going to be a, call it honking sound. Weird way to put it, but when your feeds and speeds don't really match up, the material you're cutting, the chip load for that specific tool, you'll end up hogging down the tool itself, which might actually slow the RPMs if you're really pushing too hard. So a lot of times we best recommend is to get a base level, go to the tool specific chip load data for that material, make sure your speeds and feeds match that whatever chip load factor. There's usually a range for the chip load per tooth, and start there, right? There's definitely optimization where we use compressed air, where we use misting fluid to get to certain ranges of that chip load factor. But that's where you typically know where things are not set up correctly. The other aspect of it is usually when you're plunging. Operators that haven't taken into consideration ramping techniques into material will often just plunge down, and you'll end up wearing down the bottom of that tool pretty quickly. So making sure that you've actually looked at ramping and played around with the degrees as well. You can ramp at a 15-degree angle or at 3, and that will be the difference of making sure that you're not heating up the tool and the material quite as much, or you are blowing past at almost your XY feed speed. So just taking those two things in consideration will be the best approach.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Another question here on the router side. I am looking at getting a system, and we currently use Fusion. Are there any restrictions running an AXYZ router using Fusion? Keem, can you take that question, please?
So right now, if you want to run Fusion with our AXYZ router machines, there are relatively no limitations. It's just a matter of making sure that you're using the right post when operating our machines. And in addition to that, spending the time to make sure that you're selecting the correct tool path. Because oftentimes with Fusion, because there's so many options, and you can get really granular with some of your selections, you tend to overlook some of the small details, such as ramping in, as Kevin was alluding to earlier.
Okay, thanks, Akeem. Right now we're looking at a Waterjet system, and we're in the Ohio area. How do I go about setting up a demonstration of your machine? Is there someone I call, or do I send an email? Benji, can you take that one, please?
Yeah, certainly. So we're here for you really in any way you want to reach out. So if you're looking, like I mentioned before, you have an application you're trying to test out, or you just want to come see the facility, see how the machines are made, you can always reach out to us. sales@wardjet.com is an easy way to do that, or you can give us a call, 330-677-9100. We'll make sure we pair you up with the right person for your region and for your application. And then we are always welcome to come here to the shop, like I mentioned, see the machines being made, actually cut some material on our demo machines here. We're actually sitting right now in our Talmadge demo facility, where we have at any given point several different routers running, some large format, small format, and even behind me you can see here our J series Waterjet, our high speed, water only, high throughput machines. So we're happy to run you through a test production run, do some time studies for you, really get a feel for the technology if this is your first time getting into it. So feel free to call, feel free to email. We're happy to set you up at any time and come out and meet you here and show you what everything's about.
Okay, great, thank you. Kevin, here's one for you. Can you use a cold air gun system on an oscillating knife?
You cannot, and though that's a pretty interesting idea, I could think of maybe a couple applications where this could fare well. But usually with the oscillating knife, we're looking at a very long, thin blade cutting into very thick material, and there is very little room for the air gun to blast and cool things down. But recently and over the years, we've kind of looked at different options for oscillating knife devices. And we know that there's certain devices that are best suited for certain materials and applications. So a thick foam that's highly dense would benefit from our pneumatic cutting device that ranges of this specific oscillations per minute, whereas maybe thinner paper material will definitely fare better with slower or shorter stroke oscillating knife. But you can't flip them over, and if you do, then you're running into maybe some more heat issues with a blade and whatnot. So that's the approach we've taken it, and we're certainly adding more cutting devices on the oscillating knife side to better suit the vast range of materials out there. But that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. How does the misting fluid affect foil boards? It's typically it does not. You're basically blowing a mist onto the tool. So on our system, our wands for the mist are fully integrated into the dust collection booth. So that when you're running the job, you're basically blowing mist onto the tool, collecting the chip, and basically also pulling up all the extra mist that's being applied. So you may get some staining on the board, but it's not going to affect how it operates or the vacuum that you generate through the spoil board when using the mixer.
I will add to this. There's been cases where operators like dump oil onto the tool in efforts to just keep using that tool for much longer, and you do get the effect of clogging pores on the MDF. In that case, we always tell our operators to really reduce and do a fine mist on that tool. But when you do dump oil, then you will clog certain areas of the MDF, and you will need to replace it in order to get that maximum vacuum efficiency or performance to keep coming through. The other recommendation we have here is using maybe coated tools. If you're running into the case where maybe a certain series of aluminum just doesn't fare well with the same settings you do for, let's say, 5052, then look at that tool. Let's see if we have a different range subclass of that tool with a different coating that's more suited for it. That way you're not dumping the extra oil and you're keeping it at a very minimum quantity, MQL. That's technically what the system is called. So that's my only point.
Thanks, Kevin. Not a problem. I've seen your webinars before, and you guys have, it seems there's never any dust on the tables. How do you cut so cleanly without any debris on the machine, Jim?
Thanks. Yeah, well, we certainly, oops, I turned the camera on here. Definitely pride ourselves in dust collection. We've built the systems with that in mind. So it's a combination of things. First of all, it's the collector that we use. Share my screen here in a second. But it's also what we call the pressure foot, which encloses the cutting process. And then we have a bellows seal, which further insulates that. And it's just a matter of using the right setup and the right, hold on a second, am I showing this? Sorry, guys. Here we go. So we're using, on most of our machines now, we're using the iVision 4.8 or 8.8 horsepower high pressure dust collection system. So it does a really good job of getting all the chips out of there. But again, it's a combination of things. So it's having the right collector, but it's also having the right pressure foot for the job. Noel, anything you want to add there?
No, again, it's funny. One of the things that Jim and I talk about a lot is it makes a huge difference when running production, being able to have a clean deck. because in between sheets there's less, time to clean up. It does affect the cut quality, especially when cutting things like acrylic. If I'm processing aluminum composite (ACM), I have to be absolutely sure that my bed is clean in between sheets, because that one little chip can cause a scratch that can basically make that part scrap. So we have created a solution that is very efficient in terms of dust collection. So you will have a lot less cleanup to do in between sheets, and it does affect the ability to get a better cut quality. Okay. Your next Benji, this is a question for you. What is the smallest platform that you have available on the WaterJet?
All right, so here at WARDJet, we have produced machines of all different sizes. Currently in our lineup, our A series is going to be your best bet for small format cutting. It has the option to be fully enclosed on all of our systems in the A series. Currently, we have a 2 foot by 4 foot deck and a 4 foot by 4 foot deck on that. The unique thing about the A series is you are still using full size pump, all the cutting power that you would on any of our larger water jets here at WARDJet, but you're going to be doing it in a small format, nice and enclosed. You're able to, put that on a production line next to a Haas machine. We've got a few of these running in essentially office buildings to be able to cut and process with the same power that you're doing with the larger systems. So really ideal for educational usage, prototyping, and material testing. And also we have a few customers that are using that smaller footprint as the machine that actually wins them work. So they're cutting their test pieces for customers while their main production machine is just doing production jobs. So again, they've always told us that A series has paid for itself over and over by the amount of work that it's run. So again, reach out to us if you're looking for something specific. If you've got an awkward piece of material that you're getting in, I guarantee you we've come across similar things before, and we'll be able to find a solution to get that processed on the WaterJet.
Thanks, Benji. Actually, another WaterJet question here. I am looking to process foam. Is there a specific machine that you would recommend for configuration of system for cutting foam parts?
All right, I'll take that again. So WARDJet is unique in that we do have a specialized line of product that is designed specifically for water-only cutting. The main tenet of that design is going to be our dry tank system. So instead of having water in the tank to dissipate the stream, we are going to have a sloped, full stainless steel bottom tank, able to let some of the smaller debris you get with foam and rubbers and things like that. If you're cutting that in water, it'll actually turn into almost like a scum or a floating, debris on the water. That if you're using a standard machine, you've got to raise the water, skim the level, and then that of course equates to lost production time. So our unique line that consists of our H series, our J series, and our L series are all dry tanks, full stainless, and again wash down bars that are going to be able to get all of that debris and allow you to just continuous cutting. Differences in those lines. Our H series is going to be a kind of a standard footprint as far as throughput goes. You're going to be a sheet on, process, and then take your sheet off. Once we get up into our J and L, as you can see behind me, this larger machine here is one of our J series. This is our 106. This actually has a full stainless steel belt feed system, so ideal for high throughput on the WaterJet. So you're going to be able to load material while you're cutting, and you have someone offloading your material as well. So if you've got really high volume, the J is basically the cream of the crop. It's going to get you the highest amount of throughput that you can possibly get, and far surpass having multiple machines of kind of a standard layout on your floor. So again, come to us with your material. Let us know what your production needs are, and our sales staff will be able to match you with the right machine that'll work for both your footprint in your shop and your production needs.
Thanks, Benji. Again, that applies to both machine tools, both routers and WaterJets. If you want to get a test cut done, we will gladly test cut your materials. We actually like doing test cuts. We want to be absolutely sure when we configure a system and it gets installed in your building, it will do exactly what it's supposed to do. That way we can determine the different orifice sizes and feed rates on the WaterJet, different tools you would need on the router side. Okay, next question. How do I increase edge quality and reduce scratching on material surface? Jim mentioned the high capacity pressure fit. Another option we have is what we call the 5Y. The difference is that the 5Y is set up so it can just ride slightly above the material surface. So you do get the good dust collection, but the foot isn't physically touching the material. That way you don't get scratching. So if you have to cut something that's been printed on or has paint or any kind of surface that you basically do not want to have any interaction with the chip collection foot, the 5Y does an excellent job. It's also something that you can add to your system once you have it. If you want to add a 5Y, something you can basically order through the aftermarket group and add it onto your machine. Cutting clean pockets out of polypropylene. Kevin?
Say an O-flute tool, for sure.
Yeah.
And why we want to go with an O-flute is typically when we cut plastics, we have larger chips and we want to avoid rewelding. So using anything like a 2-flute, 3-flute, although you can, an O-flute would typically give you a nice clean cut. You still use, I think, about 3/8 tool, depending on the thicknesses that you are working with, but anything 1 inch thick and below, typically like to keep that as a 3/8 tool. 1/4 inch seems to chatter up a little bit too much, especially the longer lengths. But that's one. Feed rate wise, Noel, I'd say about 200 inches per minute.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kevin. Akeem, here's a question for you on foam cutting. I am doing shadow boxes and I need to do some pocketing. Is there a tool that you recommend for doing that?
Tooling that I would recommend for doing, if to give specific tooling recommendations, I would reach out to specifically. But to give you an overall view of what I'd recommend, it would most likely be low helix end mill. That way we can achieve a great finish. Along with, if your concern is the bottom of the foam, I would use a bottom surfacing tool. So depending on if your aim is to have good edge finish on your sides and you want to only use end mills, or if you want a good bottom finish, then we would decide what tool would be best for that. In addition to that, we also complement our end mills with the knives as well. So we'll usually cut out all of the let's say perimeters of the pocketing with a knife and then come back with the end mill to clean out all the material inside.
Okay, thanks, Akeem. And again, one of the things that Akeem mentioned initially was the thing about foam is everybody just says foam, but foams are pretty diverse. So if you're looking to cut foam, we really need to know what type of foam it is, what density it is, to give you the best recommendation. So that's why we have a lot of times have customers send material and we do test cuts on it to determine what the best results would be depending on that material in terms of what tool to use to get the required finish.
Still have a bet right going where we think that there's definitely more types of foams than there are types of wood, right?
Oh yeah, there definitely is. I mean, one of the things we get a lot says, can you cut foam? Like the sales guys will say, I have a customer wants to cut foam. I go, great. We can cut foam, but we need to know specifically what type of foam it is. Again, the objective is to give you the right answer. So we want to be very specific in terms of what material we're looking at and what material we'll be processing. Again, that goes for routers or as well as water jets. I am looking to cut a very large part, trim it out 5-axis cutting on the water jet. Would that work on your standard platform? I think you call it an X. The part is about 10 inches in height. Benji?
Yes. So all of our X series platform, that's going to be kind of your standard footprint for water jetting. We've got that in a 5x5, 5x10, 6x12 and above. So to answer your question on a 10-inch piece, absolutely would fit on an X series if you're doing 5-axis. We have standard Z travel of 12 inches on our machines. So with WaterJet, really the only limitation to what you can cut is going to be what you can get under the head and how patient you are. So clearly we can fit that material under there. It is going to process pretty slow. Again, kind of alluding to what Jeff mentioned earlier about those cut calculators. Maybe a very, very slow process, but as long as we can get it under the head, we can get through it. Again, it's just going to be kind of how patient you are and what kind of time you've got. But the good news for that is it is a single pass process, so you're not going to have to go over and over again. So you may only move about 0.01 inches a minute, but it will be a single pass. Kind of ideal for thicker material if you're doing near net shape. If you want to go through with a secondary, end tool or milling operation in order to get the kind of edge finish you're looking, you will see a pretty big variation from your top edge quality to your bottom quality the thicker you go, especially something like 10 inches. So really, we would say for that application, probably be best for if you're doing some near net shape, ready to go for a secondary operation. But absolutely, we can fit those on our platforms. So again, just reach out to us and we'll make sure we get you, a good consultation and make sure we get you into the right kind of machine to process everything you're looking for.
And just to add to that, we make custom machinery. So depending on what you're trying to process, whether it be on the router side or the water side, we can then take and customize that machine to fit your needs. So whether it means high clearance gantry, multiple cutting heads, especially when you're looking at a WARDJet like a J, we can put 5, 6 cutting heads, so your production is very efficient. On the router side, we can do 24 inches of clearance with 36 inches of stroke. Whatever you need, we can basically look at it and an engineering can design and we can build a custom platform for your process. Miss Jeff, here's a question for you. Do you have to use distilled or deionized water in a WaterJet?
Definitely not distilled. Potentially deionized, depending on the hardness of your water. So one of the things that people do during the purchase process is get their water analyzed for hardness, and I've got charts that have the limits and such. Usually people get a water softener. If your water is so hard that you need a DI system, they'll actually set it up to actually blend in a little bit of untreated water, because you don't want to use absolute pure deionized water, which actually will attack the stainless in the intensifier and such. So by and large, water softener, if your water is incredibly hard, potentially deionization with a little bit of untreated water in there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. I have a question here. I guess is finish cutting for different thicknesses of materials and orifices. I think that one's from Fred. We may have to look at that one offline because it's not a very clear question in terms of what you're looking for. Again, if we don't get to your question, please reach out to us and we will basically contact you directly and get those answered. I think that's all the questions we have right now. I'm going to pass it over to Kevin. He's going to kind of give us an update on what's coming up in the next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Noel. All right, so for the next year and next couple of years, we have some exciting new features as we always roll out, but we're looking at maybe focusing a little bit more into sensor integration. That's on our cutting heads, that's on our pumps and motors, everything that can give operators, give our customers more information to how the machine's running and what you can do to maybe replace a part, address an issue, address an upcoming issue. So we're definitely looking more towards integrating sensors all over the place wherever we can. In addition to this, on the WaterJet side, we're looking at more 5-axis performance enhancements and optimizations. That's purely through software for now, and we're not going to divulge all the details just yet, but we'll look forward to some changes and optimizations there. On the software side in general, we've made significant efforts to sort of use a common platform between routers and WaterJets. We've introduced this with the Metalworker Router product line. And now, so anybody that runs a Waterjet, you jump over to a Metalworker Router, you, aside from maybe 10% of new features being added, you'll have a very, very similar, almost seamless user experience. And so we're going to see a little bit more of that. I want to roll Move software across the other router lines, and just make sure that anybody that wants to jump on a Waterjet or wants to jump on a router has pretty much the same learning curve to go through.
Okay.
I'll add another one. As we're always focused on this specifically, we're looking at more application-specific features. That is for foam, that is for metals, and again, sometimes it's related to software, as we mentioned with Move. We also have new features in Panel Builder on the cladding router side software that we've released through Panel Builder 22. But overall, in general, I think our focus still remains to release new features, both hardware and software, that are very application specific. So, well, that's it for the secrets.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone, Akeem, Benji, Jim, Kevin, Jeff. Again, we'll be running a lot of different webinars starting in January. If you have suggestions, please reach out to us. We're always looking to get, put out information and data that's useful for our existing and future customers. So again, thank you for taking the time today. Everyone have yourself a great day. Anything you want to add, guys?
No, we appreciate your time. See you in the next one.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone. Have a happy holiday.
Great holidays.
All right.